Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our Smart Education series. My name is Liam Ryan. I'm the Key Account Manager for Smart Technologies in Australia and New Zealand. And today we will be discussing embedding gamification into lesson using Smart Lab and with a K to 6 focus in particular. So let's kick off. For any new people joining today, you have the ability to ask questions throughout the session. So please type into that question box and hit enter. And if we've got time at the end, we'll cover those questions and go from there. And just a reminder that you will be able to get a certificate at the end of this. Just navigate to the Ed2Ed site, and in about a week's time you'll be able to download your certificate, and that will go towards your PD hours. So more information at the end. And now I'll hand over to today's presenter, Molly Turner, Education Consultant, and over to you, Molly.
Thank you so much, Liam. Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining me this afternoon when I talk about Smart Lab and how to embed it into your lessons. I'm a teacher of 10 years, so I've been teaching in both the primary and secondary space, and I also became a certified smart trainer because I'm really excited about the technology, and I really saw a difference in my classroom with using Smart Learning Suite, and in particular Smart Lab, which we'll go through today. So just for today's agenda, obviously we're looking at Smart Lab, so developing teacher skills in that space. I'm going to walk you through the Smart Lab skills, including how to add your own content, saving content as well to save time, which is really important for teachers because we're very time poor, making class lists, using Smart Lab to develop student skills and knowledge, and of course at the end of it all you'll be inspired and highly skilled, and you'll be able to use Smart Lab in your classroom and to increase student engagement, activity and collaboration. So with Smart Lab, I've really found it quite successful in my classrooms, and everything it's been very engaging. So the activities that I've been able to create using my own content has definitely, I've seen an increase in engagement. And it's, I suppose, due to a few factors, one of them being these game components that you can add to your Smart Lab activities, where students are perhaps given an additional challenge. They might be working in a group against another group, and this sort of light competition always drives, well not always, but often drives student engagement and activity in the classroom. I've sort of found we can have experiences that are quite high energy, and for me that works sort of really well in my classrooms. It's great, obviously, they can be used on student devices, but they can also be used on the whiteboards as well, on the smart boards. And so you don't have to have the students with their devices. It is really easy to use, and we'll just get straight into it. So I'm just going to show you how to create a Smart Lab. And if you go to your top toolbar in Smart Notebook 18, you will find the little Space Invader up the top. Now, if you don't have that in your top toolbar, you will find it in your settings, which is the far right-hand cog. I'll just touch on it there, and it will bring up all the different tools available to you. And you can just pop it, hold on to it and pop it up into your toolbar. So when I click on the little Space Invader, it gives me all the different templates available, learning outcome if you like, that I want for this particular activity, and what stage perhaps in the learning process is it? Am I introducing new information, establishing prior knowledge, are we consolidating, are we analysing? So asking yourselves those sorts of questions will allow you to find the best template for you to use. So I'm just going to go to Match 'em Up, which is a matching activity. And as you can see, it comes up with your opportunity to put into your own content here. So this is how you customize it all. Now, it guides you through. So all I need to do here, perhaps if I put the fruit, and I can add my other one here and the name, and I can add images if I like. So I could just go here, I think is one of my images. And you'll notice here that I can't drag and drop straight from a web browser. So I do have to go into my folder on my desktop. So it's probably well worth it either if you have your, I'm just going to find my last one, here I am. If you have your images already ready saved, so either saving it into a file in your documents or saving it onto your desktop so you can retrieve those images. And then obviously you just put in your text next to it. And you can check these two boxes here. So check answers either instantly or when prompted. So there's two different choices there for you, and then so you can differentiate if you really want your students to be doing it instantly, so they're having to think on the spot, or of course they can do it in a more reflective sort of process. All I do is hit next and choose my wonderful graphics, and that's it. Finish. So you can see how easy it is to create these different games, and then all students can be up the board. If it is correct, it's going to go together, and then if it's not, it will bounce back. So they're getting that instant sort of feedback and they're understanding. So here's as well, you'll just see on the right hand side, there's like a little device and a star, so the device icon. So that means that it can be pushed out to student devices, and all they'll need to do there is to log on to hellosmart.com. So it's best to put that in a browser, not in a Google search. And once students then get taken to the website, it'll prompt them to put in the teacher number. And my teacher number there is 70058. So that's the way I can push it out to their devices. Now for the younger students, what you might want to do, because it might be a little bit painful having all the students logging on to hellosmart.com, is to create a, I've just totally blanked. I'm going to come back to that. A QR code, sorry, I just blanked on that. So get a QR code. So all you need to do is get it made up, laminate it, stick it up against the wall, and then if your students have devices like an iPad, they can scan the QR code. It's going to take them directly to the website, and then all they need to put in is the teacher number there. So that's a nifty little trick. There's also, if you touch on the star there, there's also those other game elements that I was telling you about. So you might want to set a timer, so to increase the sort of challenge, if you like, for the students. Here's one that I've created earlier. Same activity, different graphics. So again, you can have students up at the board and they can get the instant feedback going on if it's not going to go in. So this particular lab activity here is called Super Sort, and I've got my two categories that I've sorted it out. Again, you've got the little Martians there going into the different spaceships, and with this particular one here, I'm just going to show you in edit mode just a couple of little time savers, okay? So I'm going to, if I want to go and edit one of my lab activities, I just go to the right-hand corner where there's the little pen icon for edit. So if I select that, and then I've got my categories, so this one that I've already made, I put my categories in, verbs and nouns, and I've populated my lists. So it's always going to walk you through the process. But what I want to do every time that I'm either creating is I want to save my lists, because often as teachers you might have maybe we call it year 3. Oops. You might have lists that you use year to year, but they might change slightly. So you can always draw on those lists. You're not always having to recreate these lists every time in that content that you want to use. So at the beginning, obviously, it might take a bit of time to set up, but once you get it all established, it becomes even quicker. So you can really do them on the fly within your lessons. So once I've got my list here, just the save button that you've got there, and we can save it. Or if I wanted to bring up another list, I can just bring it up there and it's going to load my other list there for you. So obviously that doesn't really match up that well. If you wanted to, we've got the, I think they call them hamburger menu. Up the top, it's got the 3.5 lines up there. If I touch on that, that gives me manage content. So you could go in and create all these lists. If you know you're doing a particular unit of work and that you're going to be using a lot of vocab throughout that unit, then you might want to go in and create your list and just have them at the ready. So if it's match pairs or if a quiz, a single list or a student list. And I do advise that you do create a student list, and I'll show you why in a minute, why that's really handy. So that's just little time savers for you. So that is, once you're in one of the templates, either saving any content that you've popped in by hitting the disk icon there, or by going into manage content, so that hamburger list, and creating new from the beginning there. Okay, and then again, all we have to do is choose our graphics, and we're good to go. So just before, when I was telling you about why it's handy to have a class list, and some of the different graphics or templates will have added sound effects as well. So this one's a bit of a rock band. Which, as you can imagine, as a teacher might get a little bit annoying, but the students really do love it. They get a bit of a kick out of it. So as well, if I select on that star, which gives me my game elements, if I have my class list, I can do a randomizer. So that's a little hat, names out of a hat. I want to pick my students. And so then you're not having to choose which student, or you don't wait on students having to come up and nominate themselves, but you can then choose the next student that comes up, and we can keep doing that. So that's also a great little game element there. And it means as well that the students can be driving a lot of this. So it doesn't, the teacher's not always the one having to be at the front of the room and telling and driving the activity, if you like. Okay, let's sort of move more into how Smart Lab fits into the teaching and learning cycle. So really embedding it within a lesson program. So like I said, they're really quick and easy to create on the fly, but I'll give you some ideas in terms of when you're planning your lessons or lesson sequences, how you can use Smart Lab to really sort of support and drive the teaching and learning. So if we look at establishing prior knowledge, which we often do to start off a unit, and I've just got a link on that. Here is a Smart Lab activity called Shout It Out, and I use Shout It Out all the time, and I've seen teachers use it in really creative sort of ways. And here's quite a simple example for you. So basically, how Shout It Out works is students do need a device for this one. They log on to hellosmart.com and they've got the 3 questions up there. Once they're logged in that space, they can then, if anyone's there as well and ready to go, you can log into hellosmart.com, pop in my teacher number, and we'll see if any students pop up, and I'll show you sort of how it works. But basically, it's an online space. It sort of takes away from that, okay, hands up in the class, you know, who can tell me about healthy eating habits? And you might have 3 or 4 students contributing, and that's great for those students. But often we have students that also feel a little bit anxious to do so. They might feel a little bit vulnerable putting their ideas out there. Well, this digital space, we can make it anonymous, which is great, because then what I've found is that students are more likely to put their ideas up on the board. And once they plug an idea up, oh, hi Bob, thank you for joining. I'll start the activity for Bob and see if they can pop any ideas up there. So you can just see how it works. Everybody, I really find that all students contribute in this space, and it's I suppose they're really familiar in this space. It's a little bit like their instant messaging, if you like. It's that online kind of digital platform. They feel really comfortable and confident in. So I find I get more responses that way, which is really great. So it kind of enriches the process a little bit more, if you like. So that's great. Bob's popped that in household. We can bring that out and have that as a discussion point. There's absolutely, Bob, you're right. Drinking, showers, washing up, there's some great ideas. If as well we feel like that might belong in another category, we can always sort of move it around as well. So you can see there that you have this lovely sort of opportunity to be visually sort of representing to the students how connections, perhaps, like in this case. All right, so I'll just quickly show you, again, if I just go into editing mode, and obviously to create this, I would have gone up to my Space Invader, first of all, my Smart Lab, scroll down to Shout It Out, which is down here in the blue, and then follow the prompt. So if you just see in edit mode, and we've got here, all I had to do is choose my categories. You can have just one randomized if you like, so just one. You can choose whether it's text or images. If it's images, don't worry, it's a safe search. It's powered by Bing, so students won't be, you know, putting any explicit sort of content up there. You can adjust the contributions, and of course down here where it says student names, you can either show them or hide them. I do prefer to hide it. I find, that sort of creates a bit more of a space, and that's how easy it is to do. Cool, so Shout It Out is one of my go-tos. It's a really great way, and you can really just create that on the fly as you're going. Maybe you want to try and sort of test for understanding. It's a bit of a sort of informal formative assessment as well, to see where everyone's at with their ideas and to see if there's anything that you need to go back over. Okay, great. I've got one here as well to internalise new information. Flip cards. As a French teacher, I use this all the time. So when I'm introducing new vocab and the students can go through, we can do it together as a class, or I can, with this one, I can push it out to their devices, so we can have students doing it as many times as they need to. So some students, obviously, that everyone learns at different paces. So anytime we can create a situation for student-paced learning, then that will be really helpful for the students. Okay, great. What's another one? Oh, informal formative assessment and student feedback. Let's have a look here. So this one here is a good one. I've got this for the higher year level, so we've got a rank order. Again, you've got that sort of instant feedback, and so students are needing to get it correct, and so they can move on from there. And what else was that one part of? Okay. I'll move on here to some of the more exciting ones, I think, for the students are things like the monster quiz, which is a time, an opportunity, I suppose, for collaborative learning. So students really love it when they're when they are in groups together and they're all sort of, competing against one another in a very light competition kind of way, to get to the end of the quiz before the others and to get the answers right. So this one here, if we're just showing edit mode, so this one's called Monster Quiz, and this one I often use as like an informal formative assessment. So we can quickly just pop in some questions, and we have a list on our drop down. We can make it multiple choice or true or false. And again, we're just going in and we are just popping in our own content. So I could add text there. I then select whether that's true or that's false. Add another question if I like. You can as well, yeah, with this one, save your content. You can use your quiz that you've created before that you might have used for a different quiz, so perhaps the game show, but now you're putting it in Monster Quiz for a collaborative activity. So again, yeah, there is a bit of sort of flexibility around there. Once that's all done, we've got the time limit per question. You can leave that open, but again, just adding that little bit more of a challenge to the students so that they get really invested in it. And you can do the quiz order as well. And that one finishes off. The students just get grouped randomly. You can move students out, so it doesn't matter sort of where they're sitting physically in the classroom. They're all sort of contributing or collaborating in the online space. And another really great informal formative assessment is the game show. So this is brilliant. I always get the students to run this one. It does have some sound effects as well, which is fantastic. It really sets the mood. And then you've got kids up at the board. This one's only up at the board. They can come and they spin the wheel, and they get, PowerPoints. We spin again ×2 with the questions. But you can put in, you can even use it as an informal summative assessment task if you like. So once hopefully we'll land on a question, it keeps landing. We're getting so many points here. It always happens in training. Here we go. Oh, another point. Let's get the question this time. Yeah, no, it's funny. This always happens. Okay, here we go. Oh, it's got to. Okay, we've got ×32. This question is going to be worth 32 times. It's going to be worth more. This is brilliant. Okay, cool. I might just show you in the edit mode. That's never happened before. So again, we've got our opportunity to put in our own content. We're asking our questions. We're trying to perhaps gather what the students have learned over this unit about capital cities and whether or not they've sort of consolidated that learning. So once that comes up, I'm so determined to get the question now to come up. Yay! Fantastic. And it goes through like that. Now this is worth 3,200 points. What's the capital of Japan? Woo! So you can see there that there's these really fun ways to be interacting with content, but also to be sort of assessing as well at the same time, and all this is going on while there's lots of activity happening in the classroom. So there's a number of different, there's a number of templates obviously that you're going to be allowed to use, or that you can use, sorry, at your disposal, and you can yeah, you can, like I said, save that content so you can use it time and time again. So guys, just remember as well with these particular games or these lab activities, they're great to be integrating into your lessons, but you can also use them in a series, if you like, to develop skills and knowledge. So you can start off with something really simple like a flip out, and then use that same content, but the students are moving, and each time the activity that you've created is that little bit more difficult. So we're going from, these learning processes of perhaps just internalizing new information to analysing and assessing, and to creating and collaborating. So I'm very conscious of the time there, so I think I'll move on. But look, by all means, it is very user-friendly. It's really quick, and like I said, I use it often when I've created my notebooks, and I'll put them in each, at particular stages of the learning and of the teaching and learning. But also, I create them on the fly because they're that quick and easy to do. So I'll pass it back to Liam to have a quick chat about the resources, and then we'll see if there's any questions.
Thanks for that, Molly. That was excellent. So as far as resources go, you do have access to Smart Exchange. You can see the link down there, content.smarttech.com. Where there you'll find an array of resources grouped into categories of age groups, as well as subjects and curriculums. So that's a great resource to access pre-existing smart labs and smart response activities. And next one, thanks, Molly. And then we do also offer Smart Certified training, as Molly has done, and that gives you, that obviously goes towards your PD as well, PD hours, and gives you an expertise level in Smart Learning Suite. So you can go again onto that website and look at the resources there. And now I'll see if we've got a couple of questions from our participants, which it looks like we do. And please keep those coming through if there's any additional questions. But the first one is, do my students need to have devices to play the games? Molly?
Okay, great. Thanks, Liam. They don't. So some of the games you can have a device, which is always really great because you can push it out to student devices. And like I said, there's that opportunity for them to play at their own pace. But if you've got the smart board with the software, obviously, all those games can be played up at the board as well. So students don't have to have their own device to be, interacting and engaging with these lab activities.
Great. And then the second question is, are there lab activities that teachers have already made that I can use?
Yeah, well, Liam, you just covered that in the resources. So, yeah, that Smart Exchange is brilliant, and that's my go-to, guys. So I will start there at Smart Exchange, and I'll find either notebooks, like Liam was saying, that there are a lot of pre-made notebooks and lab activities there. We have different curriculums across the world, but our content is often very similar at that age, at a certain age point. So by all means, have a look at Australian content's fantastic. I'd always put in UK, as well as, of course, Canada, USA and New Zealand.
Excellent. And you can actually add your own content into those pre-existing resources, or make it your own, and yeah, go from there. And then the last question we've got from the audience, can I customize the graphics for these games?
Look, at the moment, and Liam, you might be able to help me out with this. At the moment, I know in Smart Notebook you can't, but in Smart Learning Suite online, there are some templates where you can now customise your own graphics. So yeah, this is great. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So for each of those Smart Lab activities, there are 4 or 5 options depending on maybe the subject or maybe the age of the audience. You can even make it really plain if it's obviously more of a higher education play where they don't necessarily want to see monsters jumping around the page or rock stars on stage. But in saying that, the older students do actually still get a kick out of those sort of kiddie look and feels for a bit of fun.
Yeah, they do. My year 12s loved it. So I always went to go on the simple graphics, and they were like, no, put on the monsters. They loved it. So yeah, that's great. It is good though that we can customise too now as well. It's fun in the Smart Learning Suite online.
Great. Well, that's all the questions that we have. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us today for the Smart webinar, and we'll be back next week with a new topic, so please join us then. Thanks again.
Thank you.